My babysitter accused me of a crime so vile, it destroyed my life. My family disowned me, and I spent 4 years in prison, until the truth finally came out. Now, I'm left to rebuild my world while holding her accountable for the nightmare she caused. It all started when I was 19, a young guy with a simple life, plans for college, and dreams. But all that came crashing down on D-Day. I was accused of a crime so horrific and vile that it still feels surreal. Even worse, my own family believed the lies that ruined me. It was supposed to be a normal evening. A family friend had asked me to babysit their 2 young kids because their usual babysitter, Sarah, 21, had canceled at the last minute. I can still remember the night. I remember agreeing to help out. The night went off without a hitch. I played games with the kids, cooked them a simple dinner, and put them to bed. I remember feeling proud of myself for handling everything smoothly. It never crossed my mind that the next day would be the start of the most hellish experience of my life. The morning after, everything unraveled. I woke up to the police banging on my front door. Confused and half asleep, I opened it to find officers with grim expressions and a warrant for my arrest. Before I could even process what was happening, I was in handcuffs, being read my rights. My head was spinning. What could I possibly have done? As I was shoved into the back of the police car, I overheard one of the officers mention Sarah's name. My stomach twisted into knots, but I still didn't understand what was going on. At the station, I learned that Sarah had gone to the police, accusing me of sexually assaulting her, and, in an even more despicable claim, of inappropriately touching the children I'd babysat. Hearing those words made me feel physically ill. I was stunned, horrified, and above all, terrified. I knew, and had heard, that being a man and being accused of something like that could ruin you, and it did. My brain was just thinking, how could she make up something so awful? My mind raced with questions, but I had no answers. All I knew was that I was innocent. I tried to explain to the officers, but they looked at me like I was already guilty, like I was the monster Sarah had painted me to be. As news of the accusation spread, my life disintegrated. I grew up in a small town where rumors were currency, and this rumor? It was a tidal wave. People who had known me my entire life turned their backs on me. Friends cut ties, neighbors glared with disgust, and the whispers followed me everywhere. But the worst part was my family. My parents, the people who had raised me, believed Sarah without hesitation. My mom couldn't even look at me, her face etched with shame and disappointment. My dad asked me point blank how I could commit such heinous acts. No matter how many times I insisted on my innocence, they refused to believe me. The betrayal was suffocating. I kept thinking, these are the people who are supposed to know me better than anyone. How could they believe that I was capable of something so horrific? I wanted to scream, to shake them until they understood, but instead, I found myself alone, drowning in accusations that were nothing but lies. I was forced to move out, shunned even by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. Then came the trial. I had hoped that the justice system would at least give me a fair chance to defend myself, but I knew, I was a man. The truth was never going to prevail. The courtroom felt rigged from the start. Sarah's testimony was filled with tears and emotional outbursts, and the jury hung on to every word. They looked at me like I was a monster, and it didn't matter what I said or what evidence I had. The court dismissed the Ring camera footage from the house, which clearly showed that I never left the premises or interacted with Sarah. My phone location data, which should have proven my innocence, was barely acknowledged. It was as if everyone had already made up their minds. When the guilty verdict came down, my world ended. The judge sentenced me to 4 years in prison, and I remember hearing my mother sob as if she were mourning the death of her son. But she wasn't mourning for me.